Hey Smuglings, what is happening? So this is going to be a video celebrating the 30th anniversary of PlayStation because I just realized that it is the 30th anniversary of a brand that's been very important to me. I absolutely love PlayStation and it's my console of choice. I think it is far and away better than the other consoles by a very big margin, and I want to celebrate this great brand. And I'm doing a video on gaming, which there will be less of on this YouTube channel because I want to do more about film and want to explore that quite a bit. But I do love gaming as well. That is one of my other passions. So I did want to speak a bit about that. And speaking of which, we've got two great PlayStation games right there, which is Metal Gear Solid 2, and we got over there. Where is it there? There's Alucard. Got Alucard from Symphony of the Night. So those are two great PlayStation games. And just going to discuss a little bit about my experience with the brand and how I sort of got into PlayStation. So I'm going to speak a bit about that. So starting from the beginning, I grew up as a Nintendo kid, so I had majority of my consoles which were Nintendo. And the first console I ever remember having was the Nintendo 64 and playing Super Mario 64 on that, and I absolutely loved it and really enjoyed it. And then as I got a little bit older, was playing the GameCube, which was really quite an important console to me as well. And I remember playing the Zeldas on there and was really enjoying it. And I saw that my other mates had a PlayStation. One mate in particular, I'd go around to his house and he'd have the PlayStation console and he'd be playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas on there. And I thought that looked really cool. I'd love to have that. And my only real exposure to the game was playing it at his house. And I didn't have a PlayStation 2 myself, so I thought it was so awesome that he had that. And that's the way it went for a little bit. I was on the GameCube and had that for a long time, for a few years, and it was right around where the PS3 was coming out that the PS2 sales dropped, if I remember correctly, and I had the opportunity to get one then. And typical, around that time that they were starting to drop, my parents were actually thinking to get one for me. My uncle just said, "Oh, I'll give you mine." I was like, "Well, you could have told me that ages ago, but that's fine. I want a PlayStation 2, so I'm going to take you up on that offer." And I had the PlayStation 2, and then I had the ability to get all these great games I wanted for a long time. And I was trying to be a grown up, so I was looking at the Grand Theft Autos, the shooters that were on there. Like Black was another one, another shooter that was on there that was developed by Guerrilla, and I really liked the look of that one. And it wasn't Guerrilla actually. That's a correction. It wasn't Guerrilla, but it was by EA, I believe actually. I was thinking of Killzone, but it wasn't Killzone that I saw at that time. But I saw these great games that were very mature and they were shooters, and I wanted them quite a lot. And my uncle gave me the PlayStation 2, gave me the games with it as well, because he was sort of moving on. He was grown up and he grew out the games and he had enough of it and he just gave it to me. He hadn't grown out of games, but he hadn't got the time for it at that time, so he gave it to me, his nephew, and I had the console. And I had these access to these games, and I was enjoying it for a bit, and then the novelty wore off, and I was thinking to myself, this can't be all there is. I'm just shooting aliens, I'm shooting people, I'm driving around Liberty City, driving around San Andreas, just doing these cheats, doing the fucking Harry Potter flying car. And I did get quite fatigued with it, and I was losing interest in the medium at that point. And I think maybe that I'd missed the boat. I was a bit too old for the games to really have an impact on me. And I sort of got quite sad at that point because I felt like there was nothing left for me in this medium that I'd loved since I was a kid, and I stopped doing it. But then I think I saw a YouTube video. There was a early YouTube video, a person on there that was speaking about games because I was into watching videos about people talking about games quite a lot when I was younger, and this guy was speaking about this game called Ico, which is this PS2 game that came out in 2001, and he was showing gameplay of the game as well, and I thought this looked like nothing else I've ever seen before, and I can't believe I missed this game. And I saw the cover art as well, and it's now ostensibly my favorite piece of art ever made. It's done by the director of the game, Fumito Ueda, and it's a painting of the two characters in the game amidst a backdrop of the castle, which is a setting in the game. And it's one of the most beautiful pieces of art I've ever seen. And if you guys want to look at it, I highly recommend you just check out the art and the game of Ico, as ICO. And you can say Ico or Ico. I've heard it pronounced in multiple different ways, and it's a Japanese game, and it's been pronounced in multiple different ways. So you can say either, but it's spelled ICO, and it was just a really stunning game. And it was several years old by that point because it was 2001 that it came out, and I just remember being stunned by the visual design, the artistic direction of it, because it was like nothing else I ever seen before, and I really wanted it, and I was then looking for it, and I believe I managed to get it off eBay for quite a cheap price at that point, and it's not that cheap anymore. It's quite expensive, and I remember playing it, and also got Shadow of the Colossus as well, because that is a game that is more famous, but it's from the same creative team. They were called Team Eco at that point, but now they're called Gen Design as they're not with Sony anymore. But that is the team that created it, and I remember playing both of them, and they're now some of my favorite games of all time. They're really stunning games that are unlike anything else you will play, most likely. And I know a lot of people say that they're quite boring, but I absolutely love those games. And I'm going to speak about, some of my favorite games and memories from PlayStation because Shadow of the Colossus in particular was a game that I bonded with a friend over, and a very good friend in school. And I remember that being a really strong memory and something that brought me together with another person. And it was really cool because we'd have these sleepovers and we'd play this game till the sun came up, and then we'd still be playing, and we'd be absolutely knackered and just we'd be so tired, but really happy that we spent time playing Shadow of the Colossus and Ico, and I think they are some of the best games. And they're games that are not what you think you want when you're a kid, because they're not these mature games that are shooting everything in sight and doing whatever you want. That's not what the game's about, but the game have more of a structure. I think you seem to want that as you get older. You want more structure in a game. You want to know what you're supposed to do. You want an objective, and that's what games are about. Because Ico, you've got to escape the castle, and Shadow of the Colossus, you've got to take out the 16 colossi to resurrect your loved one. And very simple. And I was always really inspired by the simplicity of those games and just the simple nature of them and how they can be so profound just despite being so simple. And want to bring those games up as well because they're just some of my absolute favorites, Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. And I was then able to play some of the PS1 games. Now that I had a PS2, I was able to play some PS1 games, and that's when I got exposed to a series like Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid. And those that know me really well know that I adore Silent Hill and played the first Silent Hill and just got absolutely enamored with that world, that setting. And I think that's probably the game that I got most into the lore of and really absorbed as much of that as possible. And I just remember going back to those games and just thinking how cool they were. That I have always seen games like Silent Hill and Metal Gear Solid, and I was never able to play them. But I realized that that was the type of games that I really wanted. These games that have more to say than your standard shooter. As much as Grand Theft Auto can be enjoyable, it is just shooting prostitutes. At least at that time, when I was a stupid kid and didn't know that there was a story to it. So that was the case with that, and I got to explore all these really amazing games on the PS2 and PS1. Just thinking of some of the games now, like yeah, Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, Metal Gear Solid 2, 3 and some of the other games that were on, and like the Bouncer. The Bouncer is a game that not many people will say is a great game. Not people, many people know the game, but I wanted to bring that up because it's one that I really enjoyed. And another one is Sky Odyssey, which very few people have heard of. And some of the games I love the most are quite obscure, and I think some of the most hardcore gamers will probably not know what these games are. So like Sky Odyssey is a really fantastic game. It takes place in the Hebrides Mountains. It's a flight simulator, like an arcadey sort of flight game, and it's coincidentally from the same composer as Shadow of the Colossus. Kao Atani makes the music for that, and music is something that plays a big part in my first impression of a game or a movie. And I remember hearing the music for that, and I was like, that sounds like Shadow of the Colossus. And lo and behold, it's the same composer, and the music really drew me into that game, even though it's pretty standard as a flight simulator. It is you piloting this flying vehicle and you're going through the Hebrides Mountains and you're uncovering a mystery. It's supposed to be an adventure, but the story is so light in the game and there's not really that much to it. But it's a flight simulator, but it's still really enjoyable. And I did manage to complete the game. I did all the courses in it and really loved that. And another game that I didn't end up finishing because it was too hard for me, but I really loved the experience, which was Eternal Ring, which is a game that is from Software, and the studio that is massive now for the Souls games. They are internationally known now, and they're a superstar in the gaming industry. From Software are a really known commodity now. They're just so massive because of the Souls games they created. And this is a game that not many people talk about. Even the people that know the Dark Souls games really well and have no idea about this game called Eternal Ring, which is a launch title for the PS2. And it's a really great one, and I really enjoyed it. Again, another great game with great music in it, and really enjoyed that game for the little bit I played of it because I just couldn't get past a certain point, and I had very little patience when I was a kid, and I just moved on to the next thing if I couldn't figure out, and that was the case with that one. But really enjoyed the little experience I had with it, and really did love that. And the PS2 is probably my favorite console, I'd say. Like the games that came out of there are so formative to me, like Silent Hill 2, like Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, and really inspired my creativity, particularly Silent Hill and Ico. They really did inspire me in terms of writing and really spark my imagination because Ico and Shadow of the Colossus are very sparse stories. They don't have much in them. And the stories in the environment and the suggestion, and I loved interpreting that as a kid, and it really inspired me, really inspired me when I was writing as a kid, and just had a profound effect on me, and really adored those games. I still adore those games. They're a really important part of me. They'll always be in my mind. They'll always be a part of me, and really did have a great time with those. And PS2 probably is my favorite console. I shared a lot of good memories with my mates in them, and played some of my absolute favorite games on there, like the Metal Gear Solid series, Ico Shadow of the Colossus, and Silent Hill. And I wouldn't have found those games if it had not been for that console, the PS2. And I really do have a great debt to the console because of that, and absolutely love it. And the PS3 that came out in 2006. I remember getting it, I think 2008. I got the PS3, so I spent a lot of time on my PS2. Had so much to play on there, so I had no problem waiting for the PS3 at that point. So it was 2008, and I remember wanting that on my wish list for Christmas, and I remember having that at Christmas morning, and I remember going downstairs and being there on the couch, the PS3, the big fat PS3, the big fucking fat PS3 that was so chunky when I came out, and it's like the PS5 now. It's also fucking chunky. And I remember getting that with Quantum of Solace, which is the movie tie-in James Bond game that I fucking love, and I don't care what anyone says about that game. Quantum of Solace is awesome, and I'm a massive James Bond fan as well. I love James Bond, so I really loved seeing that, and that's a film that me and my dad bond over. We love James Bond as well, so that's for another video. But loved that game, and it was like a first-person shooter that was done in the Call of Duty engine. I believe it was developed by Activision, and it was a really great game. I remember the morning; it was really dark outside. It was like a really early Christmas morning, and I was just playing this game, and my dad was watching me with his cup of coffee and just pointing out, I remember that from the movie because we just seen Quantum of Solace like a month before, I think. So it was really cool. That was a really great Christmas, and the PS3 is the console that was the first one I really had. My friends had as well, so I was able to go online with games like Killzone and Call of Duty, and it was the most I played Call of Duty. I think is that period of time when I played Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 and Killzone, and that my first real introduction to multiplayer gaming on there, which was very cool, and that was something that was very special about it. And also, I got introduced to great gaming series like Uncharted, which I ended up really loving, and it became one of my favorite gaming series. And that was my introduction to that because that was when Naughty Dog first did the first installment, which was Drake's Fortune, and then they did Among Thieves and Drake's Deception within that era. And a lot of great games on the PS3, like I said, it was my sort of exposure to multiplayer gaming. And, Red Dead Redemption as well was a game that I don't love as much as most people, but I played that online and have a quite odd memory of that because I, for some reason, was the only person in my classroom that had that game, bar from the cool kid in the class, and he was like, "Oh, I see you've got Red Dead Redemption," because he had me on PlayStation, and he said, "Do you want to play?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" And then I didn't even have a fucking headset. I was so skint as a kid that I didn't have a headset. Like my my family were doing well, but I didn't have the headset for the PS3, so I was talking to him in text, and he had the headset, so I was like fucking talking to him in text, and it was really weird, and that would never be done nowadays. That is crazy, but yeah, I got a lot of really good memories like with mates on that, and I'd be the kid that had the PlayStation subscription. I had the magazine subscription to PlayStation Magazine, and I'd bring that into school, and I'd be so popular because I had that subscription. So few kids had that, which was crazy. I don't like it's not that much. I don't know how fucking stingy your parents are, but it's like they didn't have it themselves. And I'd bring that in, and we'd read it during lunchtime and things like that, and we'd just marvel at some of the new games that were coming out. And that was a time when not everyone was online all the time. It was just before that. It was like just before that started becoming widespread and print media started to die because we had the magazine still. And I remember having the official PlayStation magazine, so seeing all the great games that were on there and enjoyed my time with the PS3. Like I said, introduction to multiplayer gaming, had some great franchises that were on there. And the next one was the PS4, which was the console that I had on launch. So I had that on the launch period. So I had it on Christmas, but it was the first one I had that the same year it was released. So it was released, I think, late in 2013, and then I had it in the December and Christmas, and had the launch game Killzone Shadowfall, which I thought was awesome. I thought that was a really great game, and it had multiplayer on there as well. And obviously quite dry when I first got introduced to PlayStation 4 because that was the big game, the Killzone game, and then I think there was another one called Knack, which was a 3D platform. I was like, I don't give a shit. I just want to play Killzone. And then I believe Infamous as well was quite close to launch, so that was another really good one. Infamous Second Son, because I did like those games quite a lot. And then a couple of months went by where I didn't buy anything because there weren't that many games that were coming out. And then the game dropped called The Last of Us Remastered. So this was the remastered port of The Last of Us, which came out on PS3, which I didn't have the opportunity to play, and I got that on the PS4, and I play the game, and I get to the opening scene, and this is a spoiler if you haven't played The Last of Us, but you get to that scene where Joel is with his daughter Sarah, and obviously the cordyceps outbreak happens, and the city's in chaos, and you're trying to escape with your daughter, and then Sarah, the daughter of Joel, gets shot, and it's really heartbreaking. It's a moment that really struck me. It was really one of the first times when I'd been quite upset by a moment in a game, and the acting was so good. The acting was absolutely amazing and really incredible, and I was really in awe of what I was seeing, how realistic it was, the acting, and that's the credit to Troy Baker and the girl that played Sarah, and that's how the game starts. And it's like fucking hell, this is we're in for a ride with this one, and that's how the game started, and I was just totally immersed in that game and really loved it and really adored the PlayStation for giving me that game. And then we had other great games that came out during that generation that I played, like Dragon Age Inquisition. I really like The Order 1886 is another one that I played that not a lot of people loved, but I really enjoyed that. And I think that game was the one to beat at that time for me. Like Last of Us was just such a brilliant game, and I played it loads and loads and did everything I could in the game and really adored it and really solidified my love for Naughty Dog, the studio that I sort of really loved. And along with Team Eco, which is probably my favorite developer, I think the Gen Design, the guys that made Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, are possibly my favorite studio, but Naughty Dog was a runner-up, and I just adored them for that, and I really did become a big fan of that series and Naughty Dog in general because of how cinematic their games were, how mature they were, and how brilliant they were telling stories. And I really became a massive fan of them because of that. And I think for the next few years, there wasn't really that much that I really got into on the PS4 because I played Metal Gear Solid 5, which is the other game I was really looking forward to. Really looking forward to Metal Gear Solid 5, and then I played it and I wasn't really impressed by the open world design of the game. I wanted a linear Metal Gear Solid, and that's not what I got with that. And so I put it down. I just didn't touch it. Even after playing Ground Zeroes and being really excited about that, and being really happy with what I played with Ground Zeroes, I just left Metal Gear Solid 5 alone for a long time. I was like, this is not for me. This is not Metal Gear Solid. And that's what happened with that. And we also had PT. I want to mention that as well. I can't forget that PT, the playable teaser, which was for a Silent Hill game. And it was the first time the series that I love was getting this widespread exposure because Silent Hill is a very niche series. I think the series in total has sold as much as one Resident Evil game. Resident Evil will sell like 20 million copies in its sleep, and Silent Hill has made like 9 million copies in its lifetime. And it's made more now, obviously, because of the Silent Hill 2 remake. But that's what happened with that, and a lot of exposure came to PT, and I was really excited about it. And the game was really scary and really impressive the way that you had these shifting hallways and it'd be really terrifying. I think the best type of horror is when you don't understand it, and that's very much what that was because you just see a fetus in a sink and you're like, I don't know what that is. I can't explain it. And it's terrifying. And then you got that woman, Lisa, I think it is, coincidentally. same name as another Silent Hill character. But you got that woman Lisa, that is the crazy, really scary woman that like follows you. I think she's on you, but you can't see her throughout the hallways. I think that's the game design secret, is that she's always on your back and you don't see her because she's obviously behind you all the time, which is quite cool. But that's what happened with that. And then I got the reveal that Norman Reedus was being in a Silent Hill game. I wasn't crazy about that because I don't know this guy. I still haven't watched Walking Dead. I've no real interest in Walking Dead because I don't like zombies that much. But I thought that okay. But I wanted a new Silent Hill character. I didn't want it to be like an actor dude from TV to be the protagonist of Silent Hill. But that was what happens with that. But still looking forward to it because you got Guillermo del Toro, great filmmaker, and Hideo Kojima teaming up on the game. Seemed like a dream team. Two people I'd loved before. You know, Guillermo del Toro, massive fan of his films, especially the Spanish ones, and Hideo Kojima, master of the Metal Gear Solid series. And I was looking forward to that. And then they cancelled that. I was like, fuck, there's nothing for me on here, nothing for me on this system. And then I think a couple of years later, I was anticipating the release of The Last Guardian, which is the third game from Team Ico, and that is probably the game I've anticipated the most in my life because I remember seeing the E3 trailer in 2008 and was enamored. I was like, this is a studio that I just played the Ico and Shadow of the Colossus on PS2 as well, and I saw the trailer that was E3 2008, I think, the Last Guardian was coming out. And I was like, wow, this looks incredible. It's like a very open design, and you see the boy and Toriko, you know, the bird Toriko, and you see them together, and it looks like this really amazing Ghibli film. And I was like, this looks incredible, and that's the game I've anticipated the most in my life. I never anticipated a game more than The Last Guardian, and that released, and I played that I bought that on the Christmas. I think it was just before Christmas I bought that because I remember I was in university. I went to the store that was selling it, and I was in the rain, and I was looking that they had it to be released soon, and I just wanted to look at the game. I just wanted to look at the game case, and also I just needed a walk, just needed to get away from the university campus for a bit. And I remember Final Fantasy 15 was there as well, and the guy that was working there just tapped me on the shoulder. He's like, you're a Final Fantasy 15 guy." I was like, "No, I'm a Last Guardian guy," and he was really surprised because everyone was going after that Final Fantasy game, and I couldn't give a shit. I just wanted the Last Guardian, this really great game that I thought it was going to be great because I really loved the studio, so I was anticipating that quite a lot, and got that. Started playing that at Christmas. Just really prepared well. Just sat down, played it, and it wasn't as good as I Go Shadow Colossus. It had turbulent development, but it was a good game, just not a great game. And I really liked it, but it just didn't compare to the previous games. And I was disappointed with that. I was like, wow, this is 15 years of development. Well done, guys. I was a bit upset at the time, but I shouldn't have been, you know, because it is a very good game, and they're still a fantastic studio, and I can't wait to see the next game when that finally comes out, because they do take a long time with the games, but that was what happened with that. And another game I want to talk about as well, Alien Isolation. That was a game that came out early on the PS4 as well, and I love that game as well because I love Alien, the series, and that is a really great game. That is a great horror game, and you see the emergence of those first-person horror games come out of that, and I wasn't a fan of that because I always liked the third-person perspective that you see on PS2, and then you saw emergence of a lot of first-person indie horror games, which is fine. Some of them really good, but I wasn't a fan of the majority of them because I think the majority of them were just done so cheaply, and I really wanted the return to third person. So that was what happened with that, and then for some reason, don't ask me why, I moved to Xbox for the next couple of years, and I didn't play PlayStation for a while. I think the last game I played on PlayStation was Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, and I loved that. And I thought, I want to simplify. I want to go to Xbox. I want to see what's going on over here. I have not had much experience with this. I want to see what's going on. So I sold my PS4, for some reason. And then I had the Xbox, so I was obviously skint, so I didn't have much money for the PS4. I mean the Xbox One. So I thought I'll sell my PS4 to get some money, and then get an Xbox One, and then I'll live here and I'll see what all these other games are about. And ended up living on the backwards compatibility list of Xbox. That was the main draw, I think, for me. And just loved the games like Silent Hill that were on there, and all the backwards compatible games. And I just played a lot of games that were on that for a long time, and wasn't really a lot of new releases I was interested in. And that was the time when I play games the least, I think. And I do have periods where I don't play games as much, in full honesty, and it depends on what has happening in life. And I moved away from gaming for a while, and I just did other things. I was, doing university. I was, just watching movies, which is, my biggest passion is movies. So I devoted a lot of time to just absorbing that, writing and doing university, just hanging out with friends and doing other things in life. And didn't play much gaming for a long time. And obviously, you can use the Xbox for other things like playing Blu-rays and YouTube and all that sort of stuff. So I did that quite a lot. And then I saw that The Last of Us Part 2 is coming out, and I was like, fuck, I don't have a PS4 anymore. That game's coming out to PS4. Fuck, I'm stuck with this Xbox. And then I heard the announcement that the PS5 was coming out, and I thought I'd just wait until the PS5 comes out. So I wait for a while, and then that console drops. The game comes out, Last of Us Part 2 comes out. I'm gutted I can't play it. Didn't have the money at the time, and I was like, fuck, I really want to play that game. Really want to play that game. And there's a lot of other games that come out, great games that really caught my eye. Like the God of War game came out in that time, and Horizon. I was like, shit, I can't play all these great games. I'm stuck with this fucking Xbox. And then the PS5 comes out. Supply demand is very short, so you can't really get the console in that many places. And I was like, oh fuck, I can't get this console that I want because you can't get it anywhere. I was like, shit, right, I'll deal with it. And then, and obviously the pandemic happens, doesn't it? And I'm stuck without the console for a long time because I'm at a relative's house, sort of not doing anything, because the pandemic happens and that thing happened, and you're stuck in one place. So I didn't have the console at that time, and I was, only with my Fire Stick. Really, I was just watching movies, going for walks, just getting out in nature, and just finished university. University just finished. So I was like, all right, I'll just chill out. I'll just go for walks, watch some movies, spend time with the family, just take care of things as much as possible. Look for jobs. Obviously, because I was looking for a job at that time because there wasn't much available. So I was doing that, and then not able to get the PS5, and then Argos has a bunch of PS5s in stock. I learned from my uncle. I was like, how much is it? I was like, I might be able to afford that. And then I go and give him the money, and he says, all right, I'll go to Argos for you, and I'll get you the console because I know how much you want it. And I really appreciate that, and I really thanked him a lot for that. I was like, wow, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And I got the PS5 in 2022, I believe. Yeah, I think it's 2022. I think it was that time when the stock came back because I know I've been working, so I didn't have a lot of bandwidth for the PS5 at that time. I was like, oh, okay, I'll just get on with life, just work, just do other things I love, and not think too much of it. And still wanting to play Last of Us Part 2. That was the game that was on my mind. I was like, okay, I'll just wait. And then 2022 comes around. Michael says, yep, some stock in Asda. Do you want it? I was like, yeah, yeah, I'm gonna get it. Yeah. And then he gets it for me, and then I have it on a weekend. I think it was a Sunday. I was like, oh my God, it's finally here. I got a PS5. Got this futuristic piece of new tech. I was like, wow, I can't believe I got it. And I was like, wow, I'm really enamored by this, and I thanked him so much for getting me that. I just really appreciated him for that because he's really good at getting the new products really fast. He's like a whiz at that. So I was like, I really appreciate that. And then he got the PS5 for me, and I had a bunch of PS4 games that I hadn't played that were installed on there because I had the PlayStation app, and I was so crazy I was because I was on the PlayStation app and I was looking on the store to see what PS4 games I could have that were cheap that would play on the PS5 immediately. So I was like, right, Shadow of the Colossus remake, God of War, Horizon, and I got a bunch of these games on there and they were installed. And I know you had the Matrix experience as well, which I did play a bit of, but first game I played on the PS5 was Shadow of the Colossus on PS4 because I love Shadow, like I said, Shadow of the Colossus, one of the most important games to me, and played that on there. Loved that. Played that in a day, just the whole thing in a day again, because like this game is incredible. This is one of the most powerful games of all time, Shadow of the Colossus, and I still absolutely adore that game and played it on there. And then I was like, I don't have The Last of Us Part 2. It's not on sale. It's mega expensive at the time. I was like, I look online, and then I got a physical copy that I saw on a certain site. And I was like, that's really cheap. I was like, yeah, give me that. And then I got that game, and I was starting work in an office at the time when I got Last of Us Part 2, and I was learning the role of that job. And I remember getting the game on another weekend. I think it was the 2 week. I think next weekend. I think it was. I think it was the next weekend, and I got the game on a Sunday. Started playing it. I was like, wow, actually playing this game that I wanted for so long. It's really amazing. And I was playing the game, and throughout the week I was playing the game, and then there was a night during the week. I think it was a Wednesday night when I was playing the game, and I got to Abby's story, and I was like, no, it was nighttime. It was like 12 o'clock, and I was like, I'm not gonna sleep tonight. It's not gonna happen. I've got to get through this game. I've got to play this game. This game is so fucking good, and it's one of the few times that's ever happened. Like it was just so amazing as a game, and I couldn't stop playing it, and I played it throughout the night, and I didn't sleep at all that night, and I felt completely fine because I got through fucking because I was playing the game. I was like, I'm in love with this game and where it's going and the risks that it's taken and how great of a story is, and it's just an absolute masterpiece. Last of Us Part Two is just an absolute masterpiece, just one of the greatest achievements in games of all time, and really loved that. And then I did that, and then a lot of great PS5 games came out then, and I played there, and they were dwarfed by the experience I had with the Last of Us Part 2, but there was still a lot of great games on PS5, and I think I started streaming during that time when I had the PS5 because you could stream from there, and I was like, I want other people to share in on the experience I'm having with these games, so I started streaming, was super nervous, just really high pitched. If you listen to my old streams, I was like really high pitched. I think my voice is a bit deeper now, but I sound like a little boy like that, and I just had like a really high pitched voice on it. I think I'm just a bitter old man now, so I think my voice is deeper. But I was really excited to do that, and I liked doing that quite a bit, streaming from the PS5, and still do that occasionally, streaming from the PS5, and I started playing games a lot more at that time. Like 2020, was like a period that made me play games a lot more, and I really fell in love with the gaming uh, more at that time, and I started playing them quite a bit more again, and I just enjoyed doing that, just playing all these games again on the PS5 that I had on backwards compatibility. So I had my old catalog because I played mostly digital games, and I still have mostly digital games because I travel a lot, and it's more convenient just to have them on the console. And I've got no real interest in having the physical copy, even though I do have some for the games that I really love, like Last of Us Part 2. I just can't do with the amount of room. I just can't like I don't dislike physical copies of games. I just don't have that much room for it at the minute. That might change in the future. You know what I mean? I don't dislike it at all. I think it's really great, and I do have a Blu-ray collection. I do love collecting Blu-rays, and I do like that quite a bit. And I did that then, and I think later that year they announced that Silent Hill 2 was going to be made, and they made a big announcement on the Silent Hill channel that the Silent Hill games are going to come to PS5, and you got, Silent Hill 2 remake is the first one that's coming out for it. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you're remaking my favorite game of all time? I was like, wow, that is pretty awesome. When is it coming out? And they're like, we don't know when it's coming out, but it's coming out at some point, so keep your PS5 and just wait for 2 years. Which is what I ended up being. It ended up being 2 years, and that's completely fine. That's a reasonable amount of time. And I think that was a game I had my sights on. I was like, when that game comes out, everything stops. Everything stops when Silent Hill 2 comes out, and that was true because I took time off work for Silent Hill 2, and I just really loved that experience. And it was great playing a game that I really loved like that, and it was great to see the team that did it, Bloober, really do an amazing job with that game. And I think they really knocked out the park. They really upgraded with that game. They showed that they were capable of so much more than they'd done previously because they had done a lot of indie horror games before, and some of them were really good, but that was the best game they've made by far, and that is just such an amazing game, Silent Hill 2, and it's the one I consider to be the game I've loved the most this year. And when I think about it, I've not played enough to say I've got like a game of the year list because I'm just not someone who plays that many. Like I don't think I've played that many. Like I love games, but I don't think I've got that much knowledge of it compared to movies. You know what I mean? I'm sort of much more in that world, and I just have more knowledge about that. But Silent Hill 2 is a game that is absolutely incredible as a remake. My favorite, like my favorite remake that's ever come out, and such a well done game, and they really enhanced the experience of the original and did an amazing job there. And another amazing game that came out this year is Stellar Blade, and that is one of the best soundtracks I've ever listened to in that game, and it's just such a strong game from a gameplay perspective because it is mostly the combat, and that is just such an amazing game because it's a throwback to the PS3 era, and it felt very familiar to me to play that because it felt so much like a PS3 game, and I loved the experience of that. I really thought it was a great game, and loved my experience with Stellar Blade, and yeah, it was really good. And I think games like that, and Silent Hill has brought me to a lot of people. Like Silent Hill 2 has sort of been a game that has connected me to a lot of people just because of how knowledgeable I am about the Silent Hill series, and I think it's really good in that way. It's very much a game that has been a topic of conversation, and people know that I love Silent Hill, so it's cool to see other people enjoying the thing that I really love as well. I really do love that, and I'm really happy that it turned out so well. So that is really amazing, and yeah, the PS5 has just been a really great console. I think PS5, quite honestly, has been the second greatest console to me, and I think first is probably the PS2, and then the PS5, then the PS4, then 3, then 1. And the only reason why the 1 is there because I never really had one myself. My uncle had a PS1, but I never really had one myself, and I played a lot of the PS1 games on the PS2. So I think that's why that's the case with that. But got a really great affinity for PlayStation as a brand, and it's really been the game company that I've really looked to is what appealed to me more because I saw Xbox was doing mostly multiplayer games and a lot of shooters, and now less than ever that appeals to me. and I say Nintendo were doing games that were very child friendly and they looked very good, but they weren't really what I was looking for. I was looking for a little bit more in terms of substance for the games, and Sony had that, and they are the premium brand when you think of gaming. They are the brand that are the people that put a lot of money and effort into their games, and they try to create the best possible product. And in terms of quality, I really do think they are the best brand in gaming, and I really appreciate them for that because the PS5 is something I use every day, and it's such a staple of my life, and I use it for watching movies, watching TV, watching everything, and playing games on there. And they've got all the streaming services on there, and I use it every day for that. And it's just such an amazing piece of technology, and I really love it. Even though it's ugly as fuck, but it's still a really great console. It doesn't look very nice, but that's fine. It does what it says on the tin, and it just is a powerhouse console. And really do love the PS5, and I can't wait to see when the PS6 is probably going to come out in a couple of years, so that'll be cool to see. But I think this is my console of choice. This is the console I'm going to stick with. I'm not really going to venture out into any other consoles because there's no time and I've got no money. So I think this is going to be the console I have, and I'm really happy with this brand in gaming. And I have a lot of great memories, like I said, with the console, and I am looking forward to just living in this ecosystem, this PlayStation ecosystem, because I recently started getting more platinum trophies and really enjoyed doing that for certain games that I really love, and it's really cool. And I do use walkthroughs. I don't give a fuck if it's considered to be cheating away. I don't think that that's true. I think that's stupid. I think you gotta play games the way you enjoy them. Walkthrough doesn't affect me at all. Like I don't think it makes you better if you do it without a walkthrough. I don't think that makes you a better person. I just think I got limited time and I want to get through the games I love and want to do everything in the games I love. So I'd like to see a guide and have life be more convenient because that's the name of the game for me is convenience, and PlayStation brand has really encapsulated that in a really wonderful way. And I've just really enjoyed my time with this console and this family of systems, and I want to really thank you for that. And I want to say thank you, PlayStation. You guys are awesome. Keep making the best games of all time, the best consoles of all time, and just please continue on your path. Please don't venture into live service like some of the other companies are doing, and like you've attempted to do before. Just please make amazing single player games with really strong narratives, and really, really am thankful to you, PlayStation. I'm talking to you. Uh, so I want to say thank you to PlayStation and thank you to all for watching. And that is my story with PlayStation. And I want to keep this brief, but we're at almost 15 minutes, so I'm sorry for the lengthy talk. But I hope you enjoyed, guys. And let me know in your comments what are your favorite PlayStation memories and what are your thoughts on the 30th anniversary? Crazy that it's been that long. But yeah, guys, really appreciate you and thank you for watching. So I'll see you soon, smuggling. So you take care and bye bye.